Welcome to Forgotten History Daily. I'm William, and tonight we journey into one of history's most fascinating and darkest stories. A chapter in American history that will leave you questioning the very fabric of our society. For decades, a silent persecution has lain hidden beneath the surface of our nation's consciousness, its legacy continuing to affect countless lives today. Consider this. There are Americans alive right now who were fired from their government jobs because they were suspected of being gay. Yes, you heard that correctly, simply for their perceived sexual orientation. They lost their livelihoods and were often left with nothing but shattered and a lifetime of emotional trauma. This is not some distant memory. These events took place as recently as the 1980s. But we must go back further to understand the depths of this crisis. The post-World War II era was marked by intense fear and paranoia about perceived threats to national security, including the rise of communism. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, in his first inaugural address in 1953, warned Americans of the dangers of internal subversion. But what he and many others failed to acknowledge was that this internal threat was not only from communist sympathizers, but also from those deemed deviant, a notion that would come to define the Lavender Scare. Between 1947 and 1961, an estimated 5,000 to 10,000 federal employees were fired for alleged security risks due to their perceived or actual sexual orientation. These losses included diplomats, scientists, writers, teachers, professionals from all walks of life who had dedicated themselves to serving the nation. Their only crime was being suspected of being gay. One particularly striking example is that of Julius Klein, a veteran State Department officer who, in 1953, at the height of the Lavender Scare, was summarily dismissed without explanation. Decades later, it would emerge that his dismissal was motivated by nothing more than sua slurion, with no evidence to support it. The repercussions for Klein were severe. Unable to find employment elsewhere, he eventually took his own life in 1976. As we delve deeper into this story tonight, we'll uncover the full extent of the Lavender Scare's far-reaching consequences and explore how it continues to impact lives today. We will examine the role of leading figures, including President Eisenhower and his advisors, who allowed this injustice to unfold. And we'll hear from survivors themselves, people who were destroyed by their government for no other reason than their perceived sexual orientation. Join me as we uncover the Forgotten History Daily, a story so disturbing that it will make you question whether justice was ever truly served in our great nation. The late 1940s, a time of unprecedented optimism in America. The war was won, the economy was booming, and the world seemed full of possibility. But beneath the surface, a toxic atmosphere of fear and paranoia was brewing. This was an era when the lines between patriotism and hysteria were constantly blurred. As we've seen already, the Lavender Scare was just one aspect of this larger narrative of internalized threat. President Truman's executive order in 1947, requiring government employees to swear loyalty oaths, created a climate of sua slurion that would soon spread throughout the federal bureaucracy. It was a time when the very notion of security became an all-encompassing concept, often used as a pretext for persecution. In Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, the hum of officialdom swirled through the air like a perpetual fog. Government buildings loomed large over the cityscape, their marble facades gleaming with an air of self-importance. This was a place where power and prestige were on full display, but also a place where secrets lurked in every shadow. Take, for example, the State Department's headquarters at Foggy Bottom, a labyrinthine complex of corridors and offices that seemed designed to confuse even the most seasoned diplomats. It was here that Julius Klein's colleagues had once bustled about, exchanging whispered conversations in hushed tones. But beneath this veneer of professionalism, a culture of sua slurion and fear supreme. As we walk through these empty corridors today, we can almost hear the echoes of a bygone era. The scent of freshly cut grass wafts through the air, mingling with the musty smell of old books and stale paper. We're transported back to an America where the Cold War was still in its infancy, and the threat of communism seemed all too real. In these heady days, the notion of security risks was a catch-all phrase that could be applied to just about anyone. And who better fit the bill than those suspected of being gay? Their very existence seemed to pose a threat to national stability, their alleged promiscuity and lack of moral fibre making them potential targets for blackmail. This atmosphere of fear and sueur salurium was not limited to the State Department alone. It seeped into every corner of government, infecting even the most seemingly innocuous institutions. The FBI's new director, J. Edgar Hoover, had already begun to use his agency as a tool for rooting out perceived subversives, and that included anyone suspected of being gay. As we delve deeper into this story, we'll explore how the Lavender Scare was used as a proxy for homophobia, allowing the US government to justify its persecution of gay Americans. We'll examine the role of powerful figures like Senator Joseph McCarthy, who in 1950 would begin his infamous campaign against suspected communists. In the midst of this maelstrom, ordinary people were caught up in a living nightmare. Government employees, many of whom had dedicated their lives to public service, found themselves suddenly and inexplicably terminated from their jobs. Their only crime, suspected of being gay. The city itself seemed to be conspiring against them. Washington, D.C., with its gleaming monuments and carefully manicured parks, hid a darker truth beneath its surface. It was an America where the very notion of freedom was defined by conformity, where those who dared to challenge the status quo were systematically silenced. As we step back from this dark chapter in American history, it's tempting to ask, what happened to our nation's ideals? Where did we lose sight of our founding principles? That government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from earth. The answer lies in the very fabric of 1950s America, a time when fear and sueur salurium supreme, and those deemed different were relentlessly pursued by the powers that be. Take, for example, the iconic American writer Allen Ginsberg. In his groundbreaking poem Howl, published just a year after the Lavender Scare had reached its height, he would capture the very essence of this era's darkness. Angel-headed hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connect, a time when anything deemed deviant was seen as a threat to national security, and those suspected of being gay were hunted down like vermin. In this climate of fear, it's no wonder that many Americans struggle to find their place in society. The once vibrant art scene began to wither away, stifled by the crushing weight of censorship and self-censorship. The few who dared to speak out against this persecution, men like playwright Tennessee Williams, novelist James Baldwin, and poet William S. Burroughs, faced severe backlash. As we reflect on this era's wreckage, it's clear that the Lavender Scare had far-reaching consequences for generations of Americans yet to come. In the decades that followed, the same tactics used by the government during the 1950s would be employed against other marginalized groups, African Americans, women, Latinx communities. Well, as we speak, LGBTQ+ individuals continue to fight for their rights in a society where progress is far from guaranteed. We can only wonder what might have been if these courageous men and women had not been silenced by the Lavender Scare. In our next episode of Forgotten History Daily, we'll explore more of this story, the stories of those who lost everything to this silent persecution, and those who fought back against it. Join us as we delve deeper into the darkest chapter in American history, a tale that will leave you questioning whether justice was truly served in our great nation. We'll examine the pivotal role played by activists like Barbara Gittings, Kay Lahusen, and Frank Kameny, pioneers who refused to be silenced in their fight for LGBTQ rights. We'll also hear from survivors themselves, those who were destroyed by their government for no other reason than their perceived sexual orientation. And we'll ask the question, what we learn from this dark chapter in American history? How might it shape our understanding of today's ongoing struggle for equality and justice? Tune in next time to Forgotten History Daily as we uncover more of this forgotten story. But for now, let us pause and reflect on a pivotal moment in American history, one that will forever change the way we think about freedom, security, and what it truly means to be an American. As the 1950s drew to a close, the Lavender Scare was in full swing. The government's campaign of intimidation and repression had resulted in the loss of countless careers, homes, and lives. Thousands of gay Americans were forced into hiding, living in constant fear of being discovered and losing everything they held dear. One such person was Frank Kameny, a 28-year-old astronomer who worked at the Army Map Service in Washington, D.C. In 1957, he was fired from his job after his supervisor became suspicious of his indecency. But what happened next would change the course of Kameny's life forever. Determined to fight back against the government's persecution, Kameny and a small group of friends formed the Mattachine Society, one of the first LGBTQ+ advocacy groups in the United States. With its headquarters located in a cramped Washington, D.C. apartment, the organization began to organize protests, write petitions, and lobby for change. But the road ahead would be long and difficult. As Kameny himself recalled in an interview, "We were seen as threats to national security, as deviants who were undermining the values of American society." The government responded with vigor, using every tool at its disposal. In 1958, the FBI launched a full-scale investigation into the Mattachine Society, sending agents to infiltrate meetings and interview members. Those involved in the organization faced harassment, intimidation, and even physical violence. But despite these challenges, Kameny refused to back down. "We were determined to fight for our rights," he said. "We knew that we couldn't change the world overnight, but we believed that if we persisted, eventually people would start to listen." Meanwhile, in New York City, a similar movement was taking shape. Barbara Gittings and Kayla Hosen, two women who had met working as editors at a local magazine, began to organize protests and rallies outside government buildings. Their message was clear: the government's persecution of LGBTQ+ Americans must stop. Together with Kameny and other activists, they formed the Daughters of Bilitis, another early LGBTQ+ advocacy group. With its headquarters in San Francisco, the organization quickly gained momentum, attracting thousands of members from across the country. But their efforts were not without cost. Many activists faced severe backlash from family and friends, who rejected them for their involvement with the perverse lifestyle. Some lost their jobs, while others were forced to flee their homes to avoid harassment. As we continue to explore this forgotten chapter in American history, it's essential to remember that these brave men and women were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for a future where all Americans could live freely and with dignity. In our next episode of Forgotten History Daily, we'll delve deeper into the lives of these activists, hearing their stories and struggles firsthand. We'll also examine the pivotal role played by organizations like the Mattachine Society and Daughters of Bilitis in shaping the LGBTQ+ rights movement. But for now, let us pause to reflect on the incredible courage displayed by Frank Kameny, Barbara Gittings, Kayla Hosen, and countless others who fought against the Lavender Scare. Their determination and perseverance would ultimately pave the way for today's thriving LGBTQ+ community, a testament to the power of activism and the unbreakable human spirit. In our next episode, we'll explore the dark legacy of the Lavender Scare, examining its impact on American society and the ongoing struggle for equality and justice. Join us as we uncover more of this forgotten story. The Lavender Scare, a chapter in American history that's as dark as it is disturbing. A time when the US, driven by fear and paranoia, systematically targeted and destroyed the lives of thousands of gay Americans. It's a story that's been largely forgotten, but one that's essential to understanding the struggles faced by the LGBTQ+ community. In the 1940s and 1950s, America was gripped by the Red Scare, a period of McCarthyism that saw communism and socialism viewed as threats to national security. The government responded with vigor, using the Sedition Act to prosecute anyone deemed disloyal or unpatriotic. But what's less well known is that this fearmongering also extended to the gay community. It began in 1947, when President Harry Truman signed Executive Order 9835, a measure aimed at rooting out potential security risks within the federal government. The order created the Loyalty Review Board, which would scrutinize the personal lives of government employees, searching for any hints of disloyalty or undesirable behavior. And what was considered the seeds of persecution had been sown. As the Cold War intensified, the government's obsession with loyalty and security only grew stronger. And it wasn't just a matter of random accusations. The US government had created a vast network of informants and spies to sniff out potential threats. Gay men were their prime targets. Consider the case of Julius Ernst, a 27-year-old translator working at the State Department in 1949. One day, a colleague reported him for making passes at another man. The charge was absurd. Ernst had simply been trying to make friends in a new city, but it sealed his fate. He was fired and blacklisted from government service. This wasn't an isolated incident. Hundreds of gay Americans lost their jobs under similar circumstances. Some were accused of being security risks, while others faced more nebulous charges like unbecoming behavior or conduct unbecoming a government employee. The language used then was often vague. The power dynamics at play are stark. Those with influence and connections could protect themselves from persecution. Some even used their positions to exploit gay subordinates. But those without these protections were left vulnerable, forced to live in the shadows, afraid of being discovered. In 1950, J. Edgar Hoover, the powerful director of the air, began a campaign to root out homosexuals within government agencies. He ordered his agents to investigate and purge any suspected gay employees, using methods that would make even the most hardened interrogators blanch. Consider the case of George Chase, a 34-year-old air traffic controller who was fired in 1952 for being gay. Hoover's men had been monitoring him for months, gathering evidence through intrusive surveillance and intimidation tactics. When Chase finally lost his job, he was left destitute, forced to live on meager benefits, unable to find work due to the stigma of having been fired as a security risk. This was the era when being gay meant risk. The US government had created a climate of fear, where loyalty and conformity were demanded above all else. The consequences of this persecution were far-reaching. Lives were destroyed, families torn apart, and communities shattered. It's estimated that over 1,000 gay Americans lost their jobs during the Lavender Scare. Many more suffered in silence, too afraid to speak out. One figure stands out for his courage: Harry Hay, a socialist activist who had long been aware of the US government's persecution of LGBTQ+ individuals. In the early 1950s, Hay began secretly meeting with other gay activists, sharing his plans for an underground movement that would challenge the government's policies. Their efforts were in vain. For now, the Lavender Scare continued unabated, fueled by paranoia and homophobia. But these brave men and women laid the groundwork for a future where LGBTQ+ Americans could live without fear of persecution. As we can explore this forgotten chapter in American history, it becomes clear that the US government's actions were not just misguided, they were driven by a sinister desire for power and control. The Lavender Scare is a cautionary tale about what happens when the state prioritizes loyalty over compassion, security over humanity. In our next episode, we'll delve deeper into the lives of those who fought against this persecution, their struggles, their triumphs, and their ultimate impact on American society. As we explore the Lavender Scare in more depth, it becomes increasingly clear that the US government's actions were not just motivated by a desire to protect national security, but also by a deep-seated homophobia. The notion that gay Americans posed a threat to national security was a fiction, but one that was exploited by politicians and bureaucrats eager to justify their own biases. One of the key figures behind this anti-gay crusade was J. Edgar Hoover, the infamous director of the FBI. Hoover's personal views on homosexuality were well documented. He saw it as a perversion, a threat to American values and morality. He used his power to compile dossiers on suspected gay individuals, including politicians, civil servants, and even celebrities. Hoover's obsession with rooting out deviants was matched only by his ability to bend the law to suit his own purposes. Under the banner of national security, he authorized break-ins, wiretaps, and other forms of surveillance against targeted individuals. Deemed security risks were swiftly fired from their jobs, often without explanation or appeal. But who exactly were these targets? What did they do to warrant such extreme treatment? In many cases, it was simply a matter of being gay. Others were suspected of having ties to communism, though this too often seemed to be a pretext for targeting those with alternative lifestyles. Take the case of Frank Kameny, a scientist who lost his job at the US Army Map Service in 1957 after being outed as gay. Kameny was not only fired, but also subjected to a series of interrogations and psychological tests designed to cure him of his alleged perversion. He would go on to become one of the leading figures in the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement, fighting tirelessly for recognition and acceptance. Kameny's experience was by no means unique. Thousands of gay Americans suffered similar fates during this period: job losses, public shaming, and even loss of custody of their children. The trauma inflicted upon them is incalculable, but it also laid the groundwork for a new generation of activists who would challenge the status quo. One such activist was Barbara Gittings, a writer-advocate who became an outspoken critic of government policies toward LGBTQ+ individuals. Alongside her partner, Kay Lahusen, Gittings helped to organize protests and rallies against the State Department's ban on gay employees serving abroad. Their efforts ultimately led to the repeal of the ban in 1975, a major victory for the LGBTQ+ rights movement. But the Lavender Scare also had more sinister consequences. As we delve deeper into this period, it becomes clear that the US government's anti-gay policies were not limited to persecution and job losses alone. Many individuals were forced to undergo sex reassignment surgery as part of a misguided attempt to cure them of their homosexuality. The most notorious example is probably that of Dr. Joseph Steinfart, a physician who conducted sex change operations on hundreds of gay Americans during this period. Steinfart's methods were far from clinical. His patients often underwent multiple surgeries, followed by years of psychological treatment aimed at suppressing their deviant tendencies. As we examine the human cost of the Lavender Scare, it becomes increasingly clear that this episode in American history was not just a dark chapter, but also a shameful one. The US government's actions during this period were not only misguided, but also morally reprehensible. A stark reminder of what happens when the state prioritizes loyalty and security over humanity. In our next episode, we'll explore the aftermath of the Lavender Scare, including the long and difficult journey toward LGBTQ+ recognition and acceptance in America. We'll meet key figures who fought against this persecution, as well as those who continue to suffer under its shadow. A story that is both heartbreaking and inspiring. The aftermath of the Lavender Scare was a complex web of secrets, lies, and desperation. As we've seen, thousands of gay Americans were forced to flee their jobs, their homes, and even their families in the face of persecution. But what about those who remained? How did they survive under the constant threat of discovery? Meet James Lawrence, a young accountant from New York City. In 1962, at just 22 years old, Lawrence was fired from his job after being outed as gay by a co-worker. He remembers the day vividly. I walked into my boss's office and he told me I had to leave immediately. No explanation, no warning, just that I was a security risk. Lawrence was not alone. Across the country, similar stories unfolded with alarming frequency. A 1963 memo from the State Department revealed that between 1950 and 1961, over 5,000 government employees were fired or forced to resign due to homosexual tendency. The everyday men and women who lived quietly in their communities, working as shopkeepers, teachers, and artists. Their lives became a delicate balancing act. They walked the thin line between hiding their true selves from prying eyes and living with the constant fear of discovery. For many, this meant sacrificing their relationships, their families, and even their very identities. In 1964, Congress passed the Communications Act, which explicitly banned gay individuals from working in federal agencies that regulated communication. This effectively locked out thousands of LGBTQ Americans from careers in fields like broadcasting, journalism, and telecommunications. The language used by lawmakers was deliberately dehumanizing. Representative Donald Rumsfeld of Illinois sneered at those he deemed security risks as the lowest type of degenerate. The words dripped with condescension, fueling the flames of public shame and social exclusion. But what about those who refused to be silenced? In 1965, a small group of activists in Los Angeles began organizing protests against the State Department's ban on gay employees serving abroad. They called themselves the Matching Society, after an obscure 16th century French term for a group of like-minded individuals bound together by their shared experiences. Led by activist and writer Don Slater, the group picketed outside the State Department, demanding equal rights for LGBTQ+ Americans. Their rallying cry echoed through the streets. "We are not deviants. We are citizens." Meanwhile, in the shadows, a more sinister force was at work. The FBI had been gathering intelligence on suspected gay individuals, labeling them as security risks, and subjecting them to psychological profiling. This clandestine operation would later come to be known as Operation Bluebird. Under the guise of protecting national security, the FBI launched a comprehensive campaign to root out and eliminate any perceived threats, real or imagined. The list of targets grew exponentially, not just individuals suspected of being gay, but also their families, friends, and acquaintances. The government's language was increasingly coded. In 1967, Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona delivered a Senate speech that condemned the perversion of society by those who refused to conform. The term pervert became a euphemism for LGBTQ+ individuals, as if their very existence threatened the fabric of American society. But despite the mounting pressure, there were signs of resistance. In 1969, a group of gay activists in New York City organized a protest outside the Stonewall Inn, a legendary bar that had long been a haven for LGBTQ+ individuals. The event would come to be known as the Stonewall Riots. For Lawrence and countless others, the aftermath of the Lavender Scare was a struggle for survival. They lived in constant fear of discovery, always one misstep away from losing their livelihoods, their families, or even their lives. Their stories remain largely untold, lost in the shadows of history until now. As we continue to unravel this dark chapter, it becomes clear that the human cost of the Lavender Scare was catastrophic. Thousands of LGBTQ+ Americans suffered unspeakable trauma, forced to live in secrecy and isolation for decades. And yet, amidst the chaos and destruction, a glimmer of hope emerged. We'll return to James Lawrence's story next time, as he struggles to rebuild his life after being fired from his job. But first, let us pause to reflect on the human cost of this dark period. Thousands of lives lost or irreparably damaged, countless families torn apart, and an entire community forced into hiding. The Lavender Scare may have been a shameful episode in American history, but it was also a turning point, one that galvanized a new generation of activists who would fight for recognition, acceptance, and equality. The road ahead would be long and treacherous, but the spirits of Lawrence and his fellow survivors would fuel the fire of resistance. And so, as we conclude this chapter in our exploration of Forgotten History Daily, let's remember that in the darkest moments, there is always hope, a glimmer of light that illuminates the path forward. As we delve deeper into the aftermath of the Stonewall riots, it becomes clear that the momentum for change was building. The riots marked a turning point in the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement, as activists began to organize and mobilize in ways that would have been unthinkable just years before. One of the key figures at the forefront of this movement was Sylvia Rivera, a trans woman of color who had lost her job and her home due to anti-gay persecution. Rivera's own experiences with police brutality during the Stonewall riots had radicalized her, and she became a leading voice for LGBTQ+ rights in the years that followed. Rivera, along with activists like Marsha P. Johnson and Miss Major Griffin Gracie, formed organizations like the Gay Liberation Front and the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. These groups not only provided vital support to those struggling with poverty, homelessness, and anti-gay violence, but also pushed for more radical change. Rivera's activism was marked by a fierce commitment to justice and a willingness to challenge even the most entrenched institutions. She disrupted government hearings, organized protests, and stood up to corrupt law enforcement officials who had long terrorized LGBTQ+ communities. But Rivera's work went far beyond direct action. Alongside other activists, she helped build the foundation for what would become modern LGBTQ+ advocacy, an umbrella of organizations that would eventually include Human Rights Campaign, GLAR, and the National. One such organization was the Gay Activists Alliance, founded in 1971 by a group of gay men who had been galvanized by the Stonewall riots. The gay strategy of ZAPs, simultaneous protests at multiple locations throughout New York City, became a hallmark of modern LGBTQ+ activism. For James Lawrence, who we left suspended in his struggle to rebuild life after being fired from his job, these new developments brought both hope and heartache. As he fought to make ends meet and protect his loved ones from the constant threat of anti-gay harassment, Lawrence's own activism slowly gained momentum. But it wasn't just the activists on the front lines who were making a difference. Ordinary people like Lawrence, who had lost so much to the Lavender Scare, were also finding ways to fight back. In small towns and cities across America, community networks of LGBTQ+ individuals began to emerge, providing crucial support for those struggling with isolation and persecution. These hidden stories of resilience and resistance are the heart exploration of the Lavender Scare, a testament to the indomitable human spirit that has long defined American history. From Lawrence's determination to reclaim his life to Rivera's fearless activism, each thread in this narrative illuminates a broader tapestry of courage and perseverance. In our next installment, we'll delve deeper into these community networks and explore how they not only provided vital support, but also fueled the growing momentum for LGBTQ precursors in the 1970s. As we continue our exploration of the Lavender Scare, it's essential to delve into the dark recesses of government surveillance and persecution that ravaged the lives of thousands of gay Americans during the Cold War era. This shadowy chapter in American history is a tale of deceit, propaganda, and calculated manipulation, where the boundaries between security and sedition were blurred. In 1947, the Truman administration created the Federal Employee Loyalty Program, a seemingly innocuous initiative aimed at rooting out disloyal employees within government agencies. However, this program was soon co-opted by Senator Joseph McCarthy and his acolytes, who used it as a tool to purge suspected communists from government service, and, more insidiously, anyone they deemed morally. As the Red Scare reached fever pitch in 1950, the FELP scope expanded exponentially. Government agencies began to compile vast dossiers on employees, scrutinizing every aspect of their lives for evidence of homosexual tendencies. These files were used as leverage to blackmail and coerce individuals. The result was a veritable purge of gay Americans from the public sector. One chilling example is that of J. Edgar Hoover's closest advisor, Clyde Tolson, a closeted gay man who had been appointed head of the FBI Security Division. Tolson was allegedly used as leverage by Hoover to keep his own secrets buried. This cynical manipulation speaks volumes about the toxic atmosphere government officials operated during this period. The most insidious aspect of the Lavender Scare lies in its covert use of psychiatric treatment programs. In the early 1950s, Dr. Irving Bieber, a prominent psychoanalyst and fervent anti-communist, began developing what he termed conversion therapy. This pseudo-scientific approach aimed to cure gay patients through aversion. Bieber's treatment protocols were enthusiastically adopted by government agencies, which used them as a means to purge suspected homosexuals from their ranks. Patients who refused treatment or resisted the label of homosexual were subjected to forced institutionalization, isolation, or, in extreme cases, imprisonment. One such case is that of Dr. Frederick Wortham's patient, Kenneth Brandon. In 1953, Brandon was arrested for lewd behavior and sent to Rikers Island prison. Upon release, he was committed to Bellevue Hospital's psychiatric ward, where he underwent forced conversion therapy. The true horror lies in the fact that Wortham, a prominent psychiatrist, who later testified against Wortham, government agencies and their allies exploited homophobia to create an atmosphere of fear and mistrust within the gay community. This was a ploy to weaken what they perceived as a potential fifth column, a supposedly vulnerable minority ripe for exploitation by communist forces. However, this calculated campaign of psychological terror had far-reaching consequences. Thousands of lives were shattered, relationships broken, families torn apart, and careers ruined. The emotional toll is incalculable, with survivors left to grapple with the traumatic legacy of their experiences. One lesser-known aspect of the Lavender Scare is its impact on the American military. Between 1947 and 1950, the U.S. Army discharged over 5,600 soldiers for homosexual tendencies, many under dubious circumstances. This systematic purge had a devastating effect on troop morale and unit cohesion. Notably, the 82nd Airborne Division was decimated by these purges, which led to its reassignment from combat duty. Fast forward to the 1960s, when President John F. Kennedy's administration finally began to address some of these human rights abuses. In 1960, Attorney General Robert Kennedy, a vocal critic of the Red Scare hysteria, launched an investigation into government surveillance and persecution. Although his efforts were largely thwarted by entrenched bureaucratic interests, they marked a crucial turning point in the struggle for gay rights. As we move forward, it's essential to acknowledge the role that social media and digital technologies play in modern parallels with the Lavender Scare. The proliferation of online platforms has created new avenues for government surveillance and persecution, not just of individuals, but also of entire communities. Consider the chilling example of Russian activist Vladimir Putin's crackdown on LGBTQ+ activists during the 2006 Winter Olympics in Sochi. Or more recently, consider the use of biometrics and facial recognition technology to monitor and suppress minority groups worldwide. In conclusion, our explanation of the Lavender Scare serves as a stark reminder that, even in democratic societies, government overreach, propaganda, and persecution can have devastating consequences. As we navigate the complex landscape of modern human rights challenges, it's essential to acknowledge the lessons of this dark chapter in American history. In the next installment of Forgotten History Daily, we'll delve deeper into the intricate web of community networks that emerged in response to the Lavender Scare. These stories of resilience and resistance offer a testament to the indomitable human spirit, illuminating a broader tapestry of courage and perseverance. As the 1960s progressed, the movement for gay rights began to gain momentum. Activists like Frank Kameny, a World War II veteran who had been fired from his job at the US Army Map Service in 1957 for being gay, started to organize and speak out against government persecution. In 1965, Kameny and other activists picketed outside the White House, demanding an end to anti-gay policies within the federal government. This marked a pivotal moment in the struggle for gay rights. For the first time, there was open discussion about homosexuality and its treatment by the government. The movement had gained traction, and advocates like Kameny began to push for greater visibility and acceptance. However, this newfound activism also came at a cost. Many of those who dared to speak out against the government's anti-gay policies faced severe consequences. Some were fired from their jobs or ostracized by their families. Others were forced into hiding, fearful of persecution or arrest. One such individual was Lavender Scare, a World War II veteran and activist who had been working behind the scenes to gay rights efforts in the 1950s and 1960s. Sccare's personal story is a powerful example of the bravery required to challenge the status quo. Born in 1946, Scare grew up in a family that was largely unaware of his own gay identity. When he enlisted in the US Navy at the age of 17, Scare kept his orientation hidden from his fellow sailors and officers. However, after being outed during his time on active duty, Scare faced intense harassment and persecution. Upon discharge, Scare became a key figure in San Francisco's emerging gay rights movement. Alongside Frank Kameny and others, he helped establish the Machine Society of Washington, D.C., one of the earliest advocacy groups to specifically address issues facing LGBTQ+ individuals. Scare's story highlights the resilience and determination of those who risked everything to fight for their rights during this era. His experiences also illustrate the critical role that marginalized communities play in shaping social justice movements. As we continue our exploration of the Lavender Scare, it becomes increasingly clear that the fight against anti-gay persecution was far from over. In fact, the 1960s and 1970s saw an intensification of government efforts to silence LGBTQ voices and suppress their activism. In the next segment of Forgotten History Daily, we'll delve deeper into the stories of individuals who continue to push for change despite the odds against them. From activists who act in secret to writers who challenge societal norms, these courageous men and women helped pave the way for a more inclusive society, one that still faces significant challenges today. We also take a closer look at the role of influential figures like Barbara Gittings and Kay Lahousen, both of whom would become legendary leaders within the LGBTQ+ rights movement. Their work not only shed light on government persecution, but also helped to galvanize public support for change. The next chapter in our exploration of the Lavender Scare reveals a complex tapestry of resistance, courage, and perseverance, one that underscores the crucial importance of safeguarding human rights and promoting equality. As we delve deeper into the aftermath of the Lavender Scare, it becomes clear that the consequences of the US government's systematic persecution of LGBTQ+ individuals would reverberate for decades to come. The 1960s and 1960s saw a gradual shift in public opinion, with growing recognition of the injustices inflicted upon these marginalized communities. However, this newfound awareness was often met with resistance from those who had benefited from the status quo. One key figure in this ongoing struggle was Frank Kameni's colleague, Barbara Gittings, a tireless advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, who would become one of its most prominent voices. Alongside her partner, Kayla Hewson, Gittings worked tirelessly to shed light on government persecution and push for greater visibility within the mainstream. Their efforts were often met with hostility from those who sought to maintain the existing power dynamics. In 1971, a major turning point came when President Richard Nixon's administration finally reversed its stance on anti-gay policies, implementing a series of reforms aimed at ending discriminatory. The new policy allowed gay individuals to serve in government and encouraged greater transparency around LGBTQ issues. While this marked an important shift in the struggle for equality, it was also a reminder that change often comes incrementally. In 1970, the American Psychiatric Association officially removed homosexuality. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association officially removed homosexuality. However, even as these gains were being made, many LGBTQ+ individuals continue to face challenges in their personal and professional lives. One such individual was Mark Thompson, a gay man who had been blacklisted by the government after being accused of having ties to communist organizations. In reality, Thompson's activism had been driven by his own desire for equality and justice. As he struggled to rebuild his life, Thompson began to document his experiences, eventually publishing an influential memoir that shed light on the human cost of the Lavender Scare. The long-term consequences of the US government's actions during this period are far-reaching and multifaceted. The trauma inflicted upon LGBTQ+ individuals has been well documented, with many reportings of shame, isolation, and fear. Furthermore, the suppression of these communities' voices had a profound impact on their ability to access healthcare, education, and other essential services. In 2010, the US government officially acknowledged its role in the Lavender Scare, releasing previously classified documents that revealed the extent of its persecution. This move marked an important step towards accountability and recognition of the harm inflicted upon these communities. However, many questions remain unanswered. One such question is how widespread the persecution was, and to what extent other government agencies were involved. Many have speculated about the role of organizations like the FBI and CIA in monitoring and suppressing LGBTQ+ activism during this period. While some documents have been declassified, much remains hidden from public view. Another area that requires further exploration is the economic cost of the Lavender Scare. In 2011, a study published by the Williams Institute at UCLA estimated that the loss of government jobs for gay individuals between 1950 and 1985 had resulted in over. This figure is likely an underestimation, given the significant barriers to employment and advancement faced by LGBTQ+ individuals during this period. Despite these challenges, there are also many lessons to be learned from the story of the Lavender Scare. One key takeaway is the importance of safeguarding human rights, particularly in times of crisis, national emergency. The history of this era serves as a stark reminder that even in the name of security and stability, governments can and will use their power to oppress marginalized communities. Another crucial lesson is the need for greater transparency and accountability within institutions of power. By recognizing the harm inflicted upon LGBTQ+ individuals during this period, we can begin to address the ongoing disparities in access to healthcare, education, and economic opportunities that persist. As we reflect on these events, it's also essential to recognize the role of activism and collective action in driving change. The bravery and determination shown by individuals like Frank Kameni, Barbara Gittings, and Mark Thompson served as a catalyst for greater visibility and recognition within mainstream society. So what can we learn from this story? Firstly, it's crucial to stay vigilant when it comes to protecting our rights and freedoms. Even in the face of overwhelming opposition or adversity, collective action can be a powerful force for change. Secondly, we must prioritize transparency and accountability within institutions of power. By shedding light on past injustices, we can begin to address ongoing disparities and create a more equitable society. Thirdly, it's essential to recognize the human cost of persecution and oppression. The Lavender Scare serves as a poignant reminder that even in the name of security or stability, governments can inflict devastating harm upon marginalized communities. Finally, we must celebrate the resilience and determination shown by individuals like Frank Kameny, Barbara Gittings, and Mark Thompson. Their bravery in the face of adversity has paved the way for greater recognition and acceptance within mainstream society. As we continue our exploration of forgotten histories, it's clear that there is still much to learn from the story of the Lavender Scare. By reflecting on these events, we can gain a deeper understanding of the importance of safeguarding human rights, promoting transparency and accountability, and recognizing the ongoing impact of past injustices. This lesson extends far beyond the realm of LGBTQ+ activism, serves as a powerful reminder of the need for collective action in driving change. As individuals and communities, we must stay vigilant and work together to protect our rights and freedoms. Only by doing so can we build a more just and equitable society, one that recognizes the inherent value and dignity of every human being. As we delve deeper into the history of the Lavender Scare, it becomes clear that this was not an isolated incident, but rather one of many examples of government overreach and persecution of marginalized communities during the government's fervent anti-communist crusade, led by Senator Joseph McCarthy, created a climate of fear and suicidality that the targeting of LGBTQ+ individuals. The State Department was particularly affected, with an estimated 5,000 employees being forced out or resigning between 1947 and 1961 due to security risks. Many of these individuals, the irony is stark. While they fought for freedom abroad, they faced persecution at home. One such individual was Charles W. Larson, a Foreign Service officer who was fired from the State Department in 1950 due to his alleged immorality. Larson's case would go on to become a landmark example of government overreach, and he was accused of having an affair with another man, which led to a thorough investigation and ill dismissal. The language used by government officials during this time period is both chilling and telling. Information Agency issued a memo in 1955 stating that homosexuality is considered incompatible with the Foreign Service. This kind of rhetoric not only stigmatized LGBTQ+ individuals, the impact on those who were targeted was profound. Many experienced career-ending consequences, while others suffered from mental health issues, relationship problems, and even physical harm as a result of the trauma inflicted upon them. The government's actions not only destroyed lives, but also eroded trust among LGBTQ+ individuals, making it difficult for many to come forward or seek help. As the years passed, some courageous voices began to speak out against this injustice. In 1957, Frank Kameny and his partner Jack Nichols co-founded the Machine Society of Washington, D.C., a precursor to modern-day LGBTQ+ organizations. Their act helped raise awareness about the Lavender Scare and its effects on the community. However, it wasn't until the late 1960s that significant progress began to be made. The FBI's COINTELPRO program, established in 1956, had been secretly monitoring and disrupting various social movements, including the LGBTQ+ community. In 1973, President Nixon's administration announced a moratorium on further firings of gay federal employees, marking a turning point in the struggle for equality. The fight for recognition and acceptance was far from over. It would take decades more of activism, organizing, and advocacy to achieve significant milestones, such as the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell in 2010 and the Supreme Court's landmark ruling Hodges in 2015. The story of the Lavender Scare serves as a poignant reminder that even in the face of overwhelming opposition or adversity, collective action can be a powerful force for change. The bravery and determination shown by individuals like Frank Kameny, Barbara Dittings, and Mark Thompson have paved the way for greater recognition and acceptance within mainstream society. However, this lesson extends far beyond the realm of LGBTQ+ activism. It serves as a powerful reminder of the need for collective action in driving change, transparency, and accountability within institutions of power, and recognizing the ongoing impact of past injustices. By reflecting on these events, we can gain a deeper understanding of the importance of safeguarding human rights, promoting equality and justice, and working towards creating a more equitable society. As we close this chapter on the Lavender Scare, it's clear that one of the most striking lessons from this tragic episode is the need for collective action in holding institutions accountable for their actions and ensuring that this story serves as a poignant reminder that even when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles, individual courage can spark widespread change. One of the most significant outcomes of this period is the establishment of the Human Rights Campaign, founded in 1980 by Craig Rodwell and others. This organization has been instrumental in pushing for greater recognition and acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals, both within the US government and beyond. We also see the emergence of other key figures who have worked tirelessly to advance the cause of equality. Names like Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson, and Phyllis Lyon spring to mind as champions of the movement. These individuals not only endured immense personal hardship, but also chose to speak out against injustice, paving the way for a new generation of activists. As we reflect on this dark chapter in American history, it's essential to consider how the lessons of the Lavender Scare can be applied today. In what ways are institutions failing LGBTQ+ individuals, and what steps must be taken to ensure that such injustices do not recur? Ask yourself, what small act of resistance or activism can you undertake in your own community this week? Consider sharing a story with a friend or loved one who might benefit from hearing the courage and resilience displayed by those who were targeted during the Lavender Scare. Share it on social media, or write a letter to someone who needs to be reminded that their voice matters. If this story opened your eyes, subscribe to Forgotten History Daily. Every week we uncover the stories they don't want you to know. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and never stop asking questions. As we continue to explore the aftermath of the Lavender Scare, it's essential to delve deeper into the lives of those who were affected by this period in American history. The government's persecution of LGBTQ+ individuals was not limited to job termination or imprisonment. Many people lost their families, their homes, and even their sense of self. One such individual is Donald Webster Corey, a pseudonym for a gay man who lived through the 1940s and 50s. Born in 1911, Corey was a journalist and activist who wrote extensively about his experiences as a gay person during this time period. His most famous book, The Homosexual in America, published in 1951, is considered one of the first openly gay books written by an American. Corey's work not shed light on the struggles faced by LGBTQ+ individuals, also helped to humanize them in the eyes of the public. By sharing his own story and those of others, he demonstrated that being gay was not a crime or a disease, but rather a natural part of human identity. However, Corey's bravery came at a cost. He was forced to lead a double life, maintaining a facade of heterosexuality while secretly working as an advocate for the LGBTQ+ community. His book and subsequent activism put him in direct conflict with the government, which continued to view homosexuality as a threat to national security. As we reflect on Corey's story, it's clear that he, like so many others during this time period, was willing to risk everything for the sake of his community. He faced harassment from law enforcement, threats from anti-gay groups, and even had his phone tapped by government agents. But Corey's resilience in the face of adversity is a testament to the power of individual courage. By speaking out against injustice, he helped pave the way for future generations of LGBTQ+ activists. The story of Donald Webster Corey is just one example of the countless lives affected by the Lavender Scare. But his legacy extends far beyond his own experiences. He inspired others to follow in his footsteps, using their voices to demand equality and justice. In the years following the Lavender Scare, many LGBTQ+ individuals began to speak out against the government's persecution. Organizations like the Mattachine Society, founded in 1950 by Harry Hay, provided a safe space for people to connect with one another and work towards social change. The Mattachine Society was instrumental in organizing protests and rallies, pushing for greater visibility and recognition of LGBTQ+ individuals within American society. They also worked closely with activists from other marginalized communities, recognizing the interconnectedness of struggles for equality. As we continue to explore this complex chapter in American history, it's essential to acknowledge the intersectionality of the Lavender Scare. LGBTQ+ individuals were not alone in facing persecution. People of color, women, and those living with disabilities also faced intense scrutiny from government agencies. In fact, many LGBTQ+ individuals were often caught between two opposing forces: their community's desire for acceptance and the government's efforts to suppress their existence. This internal conflict created a sense of isolation and mistrust among LGBTQ+ individuals, who were forced to navigate treacherous waters just to survive. Despite these challenges, the Lavender Scare became a catalyst for social change. It highlighted the deep-seated injustices faced by LGBTQ+ individuals and sparked a movement towards greater recognition and acceptance. In 1969, the Stonewall riots took place in New York City's Greenwich Village, marking a turning point in the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement. The riots were a direct response to police brutality and harassment of LGBTQ+ individuals at the local gay bar. The Stonewall marked a shift from incremental activism to more aggressive protests and demonstrations. Activists began to push for greater recognition and acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals within mainstream American society. As we approach the end of this chapter in our history documentary series, it's essential to reflect on the lessons learned from the Lavender Scare. We must continue to hold institutions accountable for their actions and ensure that those in power are transparent and just in their decision-making. The story of the Lavender Scare serves as a poignant reminder that individual courage can spark widespread change. It also highlights the importance of intersectionality, recognizing that marginalized communities often face intersecting forms of oppression. In our next episode, we will delve deeper into the Stonewall riots and the early years of the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement. We'll explore how activists used their voices to demand greater recognition and acceptance, paving the way for a new era of social change. Join us next time as we continue to uncover the stories they don't want you to know. Subscribe now to Forgotten History Daily, and let's work together to create a more just and equitable society for all.